meeting of the Yarmouth Board of Selectmen pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 orders suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 23rd, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the Yarmouth Board of Selectmen is being conducted via remote participation. All votes during this meeting will need to be conducted by a roll call vote. No in-person attendance will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access and participate in the proceedings as provided for in the order. Public participation will be permitted by allowing members of the public to join the meeting via Zoom or via telephone, and comments can also be sent in by email to publiccomment@yarmouth.ma.us. Now I am going to take a roll call vote to enter into a meeting quorum. Dan Horgan.
Aye.
Mike Stone.
Aye.
Eric Colley voted aye, and the chair votes aye. And we expect to see Tracy close shortly. The next item of business will be to join the board in a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The first item of business this evening will be public comments. And so I'm going to recognize Kyle Pendicini. I would imagine we have some visitors who would like to address the board tonight.
Yep. First up is Miss Vita Morris.
Okay, Ms. Morris,
Vita Morris, you can hear me, right?
we can hear you.
I have to tell you, it was most peculiar to watch last night's school district subcommittee, finance subcommittee meeting. Yarmouth had no representation that I could notice at all. I mean, I think the finance director was keeping an eye on it while attending another meeting. In the meantime, we had Jim Plath, who is always there at budget time, and he also had a colleague of his from the finance committee. It would appear that there's just no interest on the part of Yarmouth, which was being faced with a $1.3 million assessment, and nobody seems to show any interest in trying to work something out with the district, or to be there, to be on top of it, as compared to Dennis, which had practically a zilch assessment. I find that most disturbing, actually. And I think as far as I could tell, they have come down considerably. I did not see a new assessment being shown, but at least the budget, the way they finagled everything with the use of the E&D will come down considerably. It's just the fact that, as I said, it was so glaring to just see the total absence of Yarmouth in this whole process when they were facing such a huge assessment. Now I want to go to the wastewater.
Vita, can I just ask you to clarify something? Are you saying that there were no Yarmouth members of the school committee in attendance?
Well, that's another thing that's very interesting. We have the chair of the school committee who seems to be ensconced in perpetuity from Dennis. And it turns out we have 2 Dennis members and only 1 Yarmouth member on the finance committee, subcommittee. Phil Morris was there, but that's it. I mean, and as I said, in the meantime, we have Jim Plath, who's all over the place, and he's got a colleague of his who helps him out and what have you. I found that most peculiar. I really did.
All right. Well, thank you for clarifying that. Your other question.
I want to go over to wastewater. I have to. I have to say, at least what I used to be saying, that in terms of if we were to go alone and not in the tri-town group, I'm glad to read you a quote from Jeff Colby, who's in the paper from the paper, saying the difference in the capital cost of a go-it-alone solution and DHY is not much. That's what I kept saying. In order to have a complete control over the project, the difference that is there might be very well worth it. And I think I got accused by Mr. Horgan of spreading disinformation and lies about that. I assume that's what he was referring to, because I can't imagine what else it would have been. And here we are now. Jeff Colby is saying the same thing, and I just think I'm glad to see that Harwich is now even hiring a consultant of their own to take a look at this. I've been very, as you know, I've been very disturbed from the very beginning that the town of Yarmouth ended up using the same consultant whose project was so soundly defeated by the taxpayers of Yarmouth in 2011. I just can't believe that we are using the same person, and he's the one that's presenting all these numbers for us. What we need is an independent person doing that. I thought that maybe Rich was able to do that. I'm not sure what the situation was, but at least I thought that's what he was doing. And now it turns out that I'm being told that actually we're using David Young's numbers. So I think you need to seriously consider again to going it alone, and so they have total control over the whole project, and having somebody, maybe even hiring another consultant and seeing if it might be worthwhile. I don't know.
Very good.
But,
Thank you.
and lastly, is there a really good reason why the dump needs to be open on Easter Sunday? Those people have been really had all this duty and it really put themselves out an extra mile, I think. And I went there this morning, and when I saw the sign that they are open and they have to work on Easter Sunday, I find that just out of line, really. And if it can be changed, I would appreciate it that you would look into it. Thank you.
Thank you. Kyle, who's next seeking recognition?
Mr. Kip Diggs.
Mr. Diggs, representative. You're gonna have to unmute yourself.
Sorry about that. How are you?
Good
I'm
evening.
Representative Kip Diggs. I just wanted to introduce myself to say hello to you guys and let you know I'm here, and I'm here to help in any way I can. My email address is kip.diggs@gmail.com. My aide's name is thomas.demario@mahouse.gov also. I just wanted, like I said, I just really am here to just show that I'm here and I'm available. And that's the most important thing to know, let you guys know that. And if there's anything I can do, please don't hesitate. That's really it. Just want to say hello.
Well, that's great. Thank you for joining us, and let's keep in touch.
Okay.
Thank you. Kyle, who else do we have seeking recognition?
Mr. Kurt Sears.
Mr. Sears, the floor is yours.
I just want to let you know that the RAC committee met last night. It was a pretty long-winded meeting, but I think we covered a lot of topics and possibilities. We are going to meet again next week to try, hopefully come to a consensus on a recommendation back to the board for what kind of proposal, what DHY will look like, YD, Y by itself, whatever it might be. So we asked some questions last night. Hopefully between David Young and Jeff Colby, we'll get some answers to that. I know David had said he had some back of the envelope numbers on whether if we went out alone, which apparently still will probably cost some more money on a capital basis to get started. We know that on excuse me, on our end of things, a lot of our savings came in the operations later on. So we're working on that anyways. And one of the answers to one of Vita's comments is, and I don't remember the exact date when it happened, is I believe there was a peer review of costs and some of the engineering models done by somebody else to back up the CDM's work. So maybe we look at that, see how old that is, and if it needs to be done again. That's all I have for now, unless you have questions.
Nope. Thank you very much, Kurt. Appreciate your comments. Kyle, who else is seeking recognition?
Sir Joe Glenn.
Mr. Glenn.
Hi, Mr. Chair. I had some other comments, but I wanted to kind of address Vita's comments only in defense of Ed Centio. He was present at the meeting, but he was simultaneously, I believe, in the DHY discussion. So he understandably couldn't comment as much as I think he would have liked to. But I'll let him speak for himself on that. But I noticed I'm not a member of the finance subcommittee, but I was present too. So Yarmouth was represented. I'm not sure because I've done so many of these Zoom meetings. I know we had another subcommittee meeting last night, and I know Joe Tierney was on that. So I'm not sure how the subcommittee is comprised, but I know that Phil Morris is on the committee. So, but I was there. I had submitted a proposal. I sent it to you, Mr. Chair, and I believe one other member of the Selectmen. Oh no, I sent it to Ed Centio and members of the chairman of the school committee and of the finance subcommittee of the school committee. It looks like things will have to be done, but it looks like we'll be able to present to you, or the school committee will be able to present to you something that will be better than the previous. But I'm not speaking on behalf of the school committee. I just wanted to let you guys know that, you know, we did have that subcommittee meeting, and the overall school committee will be discussing it Monday night at our school committee meeting. I wanted to talk about your previous conversations in regards to you realigned the housing committee, and you took a member of the Yarmouth Housing Authority off, and it just kind of surprised me because I wasn't aware that the Yarmouth Housing Authority representatives hadn't been participating. I tried to talk to the executive director today of the Housing Authority to see if Yarmouth, the town of Yarmouth, had sent any information saying that our member wasn't participating or the like. But I think we would have liked to have gotten some notice, and maybe an alternate, so that in the case that somebody, because I don't know what the reasoning or how many meetings the person missed or what the conversation was, but it just kind of surprised me that I didn't know about it, or the housing authority didn't know about it, and we just realigned the committee and moved the housing authority member off. But there may be good reasons for it. It may be the best thing going forward. I'm letting you know that I wasn't aware of it, and it surprised me. There was a big conversation about Bass Hole and the parking. And I remember, and I actually had done this for the town of Dennis when I was working for the beaches. They actually issued me a booklet. I wouldn't call myself a matron, but they issued a parking ticket book. And we went to the police station, and they told us the rules so that we wouldn't be abusing it. And I don't think I ever wrote a ticket, but I had that authority. So I'm wondering if the chief could do that as opposed to, having to pay for a detail or even a patrol. But, if more people had those books, it might solve some of the problem down there. But I know you guys had made some progress on it, so I just wanted to offer that. And I was really concerned about the conversation that Bruce Murphy and the Board of Health had in regards to that the hospital, that somebody was hospitalized with COVID wouldn't get a vaccine, or the hospital didn't have vaccines, and that we're actually introducing people back into the community and maybe back to a nursing home in other situations. Like I would have thought that would have been the place that we would have been the most secure, that we have people in the nursing homes, that the nursing home staff and the people in the nursing home and anybody that came into the nursing home after wouldn't be reinfecting. I thought we would have learned our lessons from, the veterans homes and out of state deaths in nursing homes. But that really concerned me, especially when it was coming from Dr. Bosky and the Board of Health. So I'm wondering if we also could get a number of antibody testing and how successful that would be. So I came to the meeting late, so I didn't. I don't know if what I missed, and I just caught the end of Vita's conversation, so I don't know if I addressed that. But I also think it's great that Representative Diggs is on the conversation. And I hope that a lot of our representatives do this. I would like to see them at the school committee meetings also. And I actually had invited them, and I think that they should have a presentation. But we have some issues with transportation, regional transportation money that we don't get back. And I'd love to see them hear that from our boards. But thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Any way that I can help in regards to that housing authority position, you know that you can contact me. But great job going forward. I know that everybody's got a lot on their plates, but I did want to defend Ed Centio in regards to being involved, because I know he's got a real lot on his plate. Thanks again.
All right, thank you very much. Kyle, who else is, who's next seeking recognition?
Mr. Tom Nicanello.
Okay,
Yes, good evening, everyone. Tom Nicanello, Precinct 3. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I'd first like to say Happy Easter to everybody. As you know, it's coming up this Sunday. It's a wonderful time to be with your family, and I hope everybody takes the time to enjoy that. I'll make this real quick, like the Easter Bunny, Mr. Chairman, because I know you run a tight meeting, and I see that the agenda is as always, full of some great discussions and topics, and I'm sure you folks are going to have some wonderful discussions. So with that, speaking from the Chamber of Commerce, we'd like to endorse the change of manager on Seafood Sam's. As you know, Seafood Sam's is a great restaurant here in town, and they do a great job. The residents and guests alike really enjoy that facility, so we hope that goes through very good. Next, your other item on the agenda was the Grays Beach parking, and I'm not sure there'll be discussions later on during that, but I'd just like to make a comment from what Selectman Tracy Post said last time. Really made me think. She was talking about carpooling, and if you take into consideration, Mr. Chairman, that we have a lot of parking spaces down at the trailhead on Station Avenue where the bike bridge is, and if we can find some way to maybe shuttle people back and forth, that may be an answer to one of your problems. And then, Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to say, I attended the wastewater meeting last night, and the public was invited to speak. I just want to make a couple of corrections from last Board of Selectmen's meeting, where it said that Tom Nicanello wanted every household to have the reclaimed water. That is not a fact. That is not what I'm saying. However, we're not going to be able to sue everybody, so I don't think that we're going to be able to give everybody reclaimed water. And one of the points was talking about was the consultant had said that New England has plenty of water, and then one of our staff person, Director Colby, said we can only pump so much water out of the ground. So, there's a little conflict there. My interest is just getting the 5 miles of Route 28 with an extra 6-inch line for reclaimed water for people that will be able to use it in the future. We're building a system for the future, and the future is involved with reclaimed water, which conserves water consumption, which is extremely important, as we all know that. So with that, Mr. Chairman, if we could just have a conversation with the wastewater committee, inviting the public in, we can talk about how important the reclaimed water is. Just a little tidbit. If the Bellagio Hotel comes to town after in the year 2080 and our sewer is working, and they want to make a fountain like they have out in Las Vegas, that's a 22 million gallon fountain, and the evaporation rate per year is 12 million gallons, and it sits on an acreage of 8 acres. So that could come to fruition. As we have sewer in town, our density is going to come up. Route 28 is going to look so much better. We won't even imagine it. So with that, have a great night, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, every Board of Selectmen, for what you do. We truly appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Kyle, who is next in line seeking recognition?
No one else is seeking recognition at the moment. I will just make note, we did get 33 emails to the public comment email regarding Grays Beach. To summarize them, 27 of them were in favor of making it residents only sticker requirement. 4 of them were more in favor of fixing the parking issues than making it a sticker requirement, and 2 were not in favor of making it a sticker requirement. I couldn't read them all if the board would like, but I just would note that it would take quite a while.
Any board members would like them read? Speak or? Okay, Kyle, thank you very much for the for public comments. The next item on the agenda is the.
Mr. Chair, can I just
Yes.
ask a question? I think there's a lot of people that have interest in that particular topic that are on the call. Will you be taking public comment at that time? Or is this the only?
Well, I think in the notices that have gone out, people have been encouraged to speak during public comment. So
Okay.
I appreciate you bringing that up, Tracy. And
I
let
just-
me just take a moment right now. If there is anybody watching this forum tonight, if you would like to speak on Grays Beach, this would be an opportunity to share with the board your comments, your thoughts in terms of what action the board should take. I will acknowledge, we have received not only through the public comment email address, but to the Selectmen email address, quite a few emails.
There's a few hands going up, so I'm glad.
Oh,
you
there
did
are?
that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good. Kyle?
Yep, Mr. John Park is up first.
Okay, Mr. Park, the floor is yours.
Yes, good evening. Thank you very much. What I'm most concerned about is those letters actually get read and are considered, because as residents here in Yarmouthport, we're looking for action to be taken. We're not satisfied with just sending in the letter and having that be documented. What we're looking for is some go forward from this conversation that actually changes the situation here in Yarmouthport.
We appreciate that. And the emails are getting read. They have been read. And we're actually, I can assure you that we're very pleased to get all this comment. This is one of the reasons why we have public comments, is so that we can actually hear from people who are affected by some of the actions that are coming up. So we appreciate all the emails and all the discussion. It's been very, very helpful for us. So.
Well, we appreciate sending in those, but with all due respect, we're not looking to just have that information received and read. We're looking for some change of action in that area. If you were a resident in this part of the Cape, and this was your neighborhood, and you were asked for comment, and those comments went in, but there was nothing recorded that said there was going to be some kind of action decision to be made by this group, then you would become more and more frustrated. And that's how our community feels right now.
Yeah, well, let me explain something, John. This part of the agenda, public comments, is typically reserved for people to express a concern to the board. Under the open meeting law, we really can't get involved in a dialogue with individual residents and to sort of have a Q&A back and forth. on an individual comment. We will be able to deliberate on this when it comes up on our agenda in a couple of items. So we've got to go
Great.
through, when we get there, there'll be a fair amount of discussion and there'll be deliberation. I just want to assure you, yeah, we read our mail. And like I said, this is a topic that has generated a lot of discussion, and we find it incredibly helpful. So
Great.
just be
Thank you very
patient with us. I hope you'll be back before the board in the future with any public comments. Again, this part of the agenda, because of the constraints of the open meeting law, we just can't engage in a Q&A back and forth with you. But there'll be plenty of deliberation later on when this item comes up on the agenda. So, and I want to thank Tracy for at least acknowledging that we had some people here that would like to speak. So,
We do have
Kyle,
one.
is-
Yeah, we do
anybody else?
have- The Smiths are next.
Smith,
Hello.
good
You guys can hear
evening.
me? Good evening. We're newer residents to Yarmouthport. My wife and I just moved here within the last year. We have relocated several times for my job over the last couple of years, and we make up a different demographic than the rest of our neighborhood. We have a young son and we have a new daughter coming on the way. You can probably hear them in the
Can
background.
hear them, yeah. thank you.
Yeah. So we just wanted to voice
There's
concerns
no age
a lot.
restriction on public comments, so you.
Yeah, well, we're just looking to, we live off of Center Street, and we've seen within the last summer, a lot of things that are unsettling to us. We came and found Yarmouthport in the off season, and we love the area and we love the town, and we want to, tell our friends and sing the praises of this area. And we just have seen, a lot of, upsetting and unruly things that have happened based on the, the overcrowding at the beach. And again, I know that the sentiments echoed in the previous comment were that, we just want to be heard. You can talk to anyone, the police officers that have done routine, checks down here that we've had, issues with speeding, littering, unruly behavior, whatnot. But we just want a beautiful, special place for our children to go and for our families to go. And we feel like in our short time of being here, it's become out of hand. So just again, echoing our sentiment, and I'm sure you guys, my wife wrote an email, I wrote an email. We wanted to voice our opinion and be involved in the politics of our town. So just to make our voices heard, we appreciate the giving us a soapbox to talk to you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your comment. Kyle? Anybody else?
Yeah, one more identified as W. Pizzoni.
Okay. Ms. or Mr.?
Good evening. Thank you. And I appreciate your efforts. I lived here about 5 or 6 years now. I think 6, they're going on 7. And I live off of Arms House, which is right down by Gray's Beach. And I do have to say that the situation has become exasperated over the last several years, that there's more and more parking along Center Street on both sides. I know you guys come down and try to keep things moving, but there has to be another impediment to bring people or to drive people there. And it's got to be probably more sophisticated ticketing or requirement of a permit to use the beach. I know we have a balancing act here because Gray's Beach is a beautiful beach. We have that long boardwalk there that's one of the icons on the Cape, and it helps to drive people to the area for our summer businesses, which we need. That being said, you have 4 components that use that beach. You have people coming down to use the boardwalk. You have people coming down to put their boats in the water and park their trailers there at the end while they're out utilizing the water. You have the area for the beach itself, which becomes overcrowded very quickly. And you have the park and the trail access there. So there's a lot of different components at play. And I think resident parking will do a lot and salvage a lot for the issues that you see at the beach proper itself. But people shouldn't be leaving their trucks with their trailers at the site as well after they drop off their boats. They should go to maybe up by the rail trail and park there. And if there was some sort of shuttle to get them back and forth, that'd be great. And the parking that's right at the park, that should be designated for the park and for the trails. The problem is you get people that come down to use the beach, they park in the parking lot, they park up and down the street, they park next to the park area, and that beach is so small it can't accommodate the number of people there. And that creates a problem. And that beach is primarily there for our residents, I believe. And it's not permitted that way, and it probably should be, because those that live down here, like myself, that's the closest beach for us. It's accessible by walking, or up Center Street, they can come down. But if you're gonna have to be dodging traffic and going in and out of cars parked on either side, it becomes problematic. So I'll leave you with the thought that it's not just parking for the beach. There's parking for a lot of components here, some of which are integral to our summer business, to bring, to drive people to Yarmouthport and come to our businesses as well. But there is also the safety of the people that live in this neighborhood and move to this neighborhood to utilize that beach. And sometimes I can't go down there and find a location on the beach proper. And I live 1,000 feet from it. So it's pretty difficult. I'd hate to live up Center Street and walk all the way down there with my kids and not find a location at the beach. So that's my 2 cents for what it's worth. And I'd be happy to brainstorm with you in the future on this.
Mr. Pisoni, thank you very much for joining our meeting and for offering your comments. They're very much appreciated. I do know that we have a number of people that are in the sort of audience from the Yarmouthport area. Once again, just another call if there's anyone seeking recognition during this part of the meeting. We're happy to hear from you. Kyle, is there anybody else seeking recognition?
Not at this time.
Okay. Like I said before, we'll be deliberating on this shortly. So the next item on the agenda is the Board of Health and a COVID-19 update on the situation here in Yarmouth. And we're going to recognize Bruce Murphy, our health agent. Mr. Murphy.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chairman and Board of Selectmen. I'd like to give you the update from last week, of the COVID update within town. Have a set of slides similar to what we've seen in the past. Tried to decrease them a little bit and put a couple news articles in to change it up a little bit. But we still start off with the daily active cases that we have here as of today. We're following 83 active cases. You can see that as we get into March right here, from March 9th, it's really started right up again, which I have called as the start of the third wave. Interesting night last night listening to the CDC director. She's saying the concern of COVID increasing, and there might even be a fourth wave, different parts of the country. So I feel that's where we are right now. Today we had added 14 active cases, and yesterday we added 9. So we're seeing a steady number of cases come in. Thank you. As I mentioned, overall from the beginning last March, we've had 1351, and we're following 83 active cases today. And it remains at 31 deaths. Thank you. Community spread, we see it between West Yarmouth, South Yarmouth, very close. Yarmouthport, it's also based on population. So that's the total in town. So it is spread across the community. It's just not high in one particular area. Thank you. We break it down by age group. We're still staying what we've seen an increase in that 50 to 59 age group. Seems to be our highest group right now, even though the papers have been saying it's between that. Most of the cases are under 40, so you can see there's quite a few cases right there. So whether that's our demographics or not, that is also our second highest group, our working population, and also a group that has children in school. So we can just see from Friday to today, we even jumped up 7 cases just in that age group right there. Just go down just a little bit, Kyle. There you go. So from last Friday to today, we went up 37 cases. Thank you. Schools remain safe overall. We've been very good, but today, we do have a slight uptick. And just to give you from talking to our school lead nurse, Kristen Dwyer, that I think we stay in touch with myself or Phil every day, including the weekends. We have 8 staff out, 17 close contact staff that are out, students out 15. It includes 2 remote students. I guess you could say they're out, but they weren't in school, but we had 2 positives in remote students. And close contacts to the students have been 109 that are out. And 6 classrooms are closed as of today. For March altogether, the classrooms affected have been 14. Many of them are in the younger group that I've mentioned before, 1 through grade 4, where it's hard to keep them apart at recess. High school's doing very well. The kids are spaced out. The desks are 6 feet apart. We're doing real well over there. Overall, I continue to say our schools are doing very well. The students, the teachers, the administration's working hard to keep it that way. And there's no spread within the classrooms, because if there were, there'd be 3 or 4 positives within the classrooms, which we are not seeing. It's 1 child probably bringing it in from home that we pick up going down to the nurse's office. All the school nurses are very busy each day. Thank you. The Friday chart that comes out from Department of Public Health showed us last Friday increasing for the second week. Our positivity percentage increased from Yarmouth down the bottom. We went up from 5.88 to 7.98, almost 8, and Barnstable went up to over 10. What's also interesting on this chart is 5 other Cape towns have now moved up to the red high risk category, and that would also include Plymouth off Cape. There were 20 high risk red communities the week before, and then last week there were 32. So the trend is increasing the number of communities that we've seen across the state increase to red high risk. Thank you. Okay, a Friday article. I just put a couple articles in that more towns in the red zone are what I just mentioned. That's Friday. We had testing at the Melody Tent website. We did see the news flash that I had mentioned before, that we had in the Barnstable County had the first P1 identification of the variant. Thank you. We also have the UK variant very prominent on the Cape also. So then Sunday, I had talked to a couple people who are following up is why. Okay. Discussion points. The recreation areas. I talked to Amy Hall that at this point in time, our recommendation, mine and the Board of Health, is we should at least have a pause on the rentals at the Bass Hole, Cabana, and Flax. They're not ready to have an extra 150 people out there in these areas. It's just too hard to enforce. Extra crowds in at least the Bass Hole area. And until we can see this surge come down, there's not a need of having that many extra 150 people at these gatherings. I talked to Amy that when we can review it in May, and maybe we can decrease the gatherings at a lower amount so we can get the people outside and using these facilities. So I'm in constant contact with Amy Hall at Recreation. The landfill stickers seem to have calmed down. It looks like maybe a lot of people got them more in the mail this year, that we didn't have to bring in a separate trailer like last year. So maybe from last year, people realized they could get on better by online. So that's very helpful. Beaches, I've talked to DPW and Amy how to keep an eye on the beaches, what they'll be doing this summer to make sure they continue to stay safe. monitoring the basketball courts and the playgrounds up at Homer Park, that they can be very busy and without people wearing masks. Okay, continued discussion points are the recreation facilities reopen. We talked about last week, Board of Health reviewed the opening plan and approved it for the recreation office. The library children's time is really on a pause right now. We'll review that in May 1st and hopefully we can get that going outside as the weather gets better. We can have the children's time outside. So I've been talking to the libraries on that. We look forward to doing that. And we have the ever popular recreation pickleball using their same outline as last year, and that will be starting up this week. So at Flax. So it's good to start seeing some things getting outside that we can look at. Outdoor dining is picking up. We're seeing a lot of the requests come in from last year. We're looking at the floor plans, the outdoor plans, and the septic system. And I know other departments are looking at parking and so forth. So, so we're looking at that. Something that we're still considering in town here is whether we should consider a COVID intern monitor that can help with education and enforcement around town, and whether that's just passing out masks or reminding people the social distance. Okay, thank you. Brings us to vaccine, the second half of the information coming out, and we'll see that, you know, come Monday, we go to age 55 and over that becomes eligible, and people with certain one medical condition. So we'll have more people going for vaccinations, which is great. So that gets us to our next slide. Kyle, the vaccination. We're dependent on the state, but the state has been increasing the doses from 975 up to, we're up to 2,000. And then next week, it's going to go up to 3,100, at least for a week, an increase. So that will be at the community college. So I think that's a big plus. The local pharmacies are very busy up at CVS. I did stop into them the end of last week to see how things were going, and that worked out very well. People are getting online and they're doing 140 plus a day. They're very busy up there. Okay, thank you. Vaccination plans. The homebound, we're ready to go with Harbor Community Health from the out, and then we're working with Outer Cape Community Health will be our main person that we're working with for homebound. They are in the process of ordering the J&J vaccine, and we hope to get out to the homebound probably within about 10 days from today when the vaccine comes in. I'll mention a little bit more of that in a minute. The last mile is a private group that can go out to help towns. Today they're available, but towns have to have vaccine to give them to come in. So we're still keeping that line of communication open as we need more vaccine, if we can get it within town as we go forward. Okay. I just thought this was an interesting article in the Boston Globe yesterday. The surge of vaccine could fight the spike from the former FDA boss. And Massachusetts needs an influx of shots to battle the rising cases that we see that I've been mentioned. If you can go from there, Kyle, to the next slide. The article starts off with the FDA saying with the surge in vaccine around the country, whether it's Michigan or other states, and in particular Massachusetts, the Boston area, New York, and New Jersey, they should be looking at getting vaccination shots in emergency areas. And in this particular one, the Globe had reached out because they were reaching out on the continued red zone towns. And I had mentioned the same thing, that we were looking for emergency vaccination. Thank you. That's just the second part of that. Thank you. Homebound, I mentioned that we're working with the Council on Aging. There was an article today about homebound in the paper. Anybody that still felt that they needed, hadn't been contacted, they could call the health department. We received probably at least 10 calls today that we worked with Council on Aging. We're at about 160 people that we have on our homebound list that will be working with Outer Cape Healthcare To do that, we continue getting lists and talk with the people Meals on Wheels in the local churches. Thank you. As I get down to my last couple slides, just to let you, the people know what our vaccination team is. Community Health Center in Hyannis that we had 40 people last Friday go down to get their second shot. And we'll be working with them this Friday to send 10 residents down for their second shot. Outer Cape Health that I mentioned, they'll be doing our homebound, and we'll be working with them closely along with the county health department and the VNA. Okay, Kyle. The vaccination team is the health department here. Council on Aging is keeping the list up, and we'll be calling all the homebound people next week on their appointment dates. Police department, fire department will be very active in this using their paramedics, and we'll probably be putting at least 3 or 4 teams together to go out to do the homebound. People along with probably one team or 2 teams from Outer Cape Health. We hope to get all our homebound done within a 3-day time period. Okay, I think the last slide here is people that are watching, if you still have a need for a homebound or vaccination, just call the Council on Aging. They're maintaining a list. If it's not homebound, just people that are having difficulty getting through, they're passing those names and phone numbers along to Cape Cod Healthcare. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Bruce, thank you. I'm going to go to the board now for questions. I'm going to start with Tracy. Tracy Post.
Thank you. Thank you, Bruce. Over the past week, we've watched it kind of monitoring the numbers, and it seems like a couple days seem to maybe go down a little bit. I'm just wondering, I know the school also did some mobile testing here recently. How quickly are the results coming back? Have those been factored into the numbers that we're seeing already, as well as the weekend at the Melody Tent? Are these already things that we're seeing?
Yes, that's a good point, Tracy. I meant to work that in, that we did 3 days of testing in our school system. Last Wednesday, we did the elementary and middle school and tested 130 students there. The test results came back with no positives. Last Friday, we did the high school. We did 163 students, family members, teachers that wanted to go through, bus drivers, anybody that wanted to go through. We did 163 last Friday, and we only had 2 positives come back. And then yesterday, we did, back at the high school, we did another 173 students, families, people went through, and we had 4 positives. So out of all the testing that we did of 566 tests, only had 6 had come back positive. So that's a good rate. A lot of them were asymptomatic. So I think by reaching out, that was excellent to show what our system, I think that shows at least the people that went through the schools in the different ages, we feel comfortable with.
Well, that's great, because that's a fairly low percentage. It's
Yes.
Certainly lower than what we see overall at this point in time. So are you optimistic about that as a sampling, or how? Or
Well,
do you feel that we're going to continue to grow still?
I'm optimistic of what we're seeing in the schools right now, which is great. But I think at our larger sites at the Melody Tent, and I don't have all the results back from last Sunday, but the Sunday before we did pick up a higher number of positives. So, and we're still seeing positive cases spreading throughout the community. So it's a community spread, and unfortunately it's coming into the schools from the community.
So no clusters that you can trace back?
No, we don't have any clusters. And I think last week, I think we made a point of interest that we had no positives within any of the nursing homes or long-term facilities that we have in town.
Now, as part of the testing, Bruce, are they testing for the variant? Are you getting any data as far as knowing whether it is variant related?
They are testing. We don't have those test results back, nor do we know what the % of tests that they're running.
Okay.
But we'll probably won't get them for a couple weeks.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. Mike Stone. Mike, do you have any comments, questions?
Bruce, the director of the CDC seems to be very concerned about the spikes that she sees in the virus, not just in Massachusetts, but nationally. And as you know, there are groups that are very resistant to the concept of vaccination and masks and everything else. And she used the term earlier this week, of being concerned about what she considered impending doom based on the latest wave of viruses, and said that she was scared about what she was seeing on a national level. And back to Tracy's point, it would seem to me that there should be some tests to isolate these variant viruses, the P1 and the UK virus, which you say is very prominent on the Cape. I think that's what you said. So there's obviously not just an isolated case here or there. These variants are known to spread at rates up to 3 times as fast as the regular coronavirus. So isn't it, and we don't know really what the efficacy of the vaccine is going to be with respect to those mutations. So can you speak to those issues?
Correct. Yeah, the UK variant is a lot more prevalent on the Cape now and within Massachusetts. The P1 now is just starting to show, and we're probably seeing it more on the Cape here. But I just think that's, like you said, it's a direction that we're going to see, a different variant that could spread faster. The CDC, she was very gloomy. That was it. And I don't know if they're seeing a little bit more across the country and what might be heading this way. I mean, we're also looking at students coming back from spring break. We have April vacation coming up. So we've got a lot coming up this month that could have a concern. And that's why we need to have people, stay vigilant and try to get, more vaccine to areas in need without taking it away from the larger site, at least we have at the college.
I think they said at the Heinz Center, they're going to increase FEMA's going to increase the allocation by 7,000 doses a day.
Yes.
That's how critical they think this spread is in this area of the country.
Correct. And my question back to DPH when I heard that was, could they take some of that 7,000 and maybe put more down here to the community college and then break out some also of that to different populations in need?
Sure. Very good suggestion. I think we leave them with 1,000. We'll take the 6. Call it a day.
Call it a day.
I guess another question is, why do you suppose it is that here on the Cape we have such a spike in the rate of infection versus the Commonwealth generally, or the country generally? I mean, first you had Barnstable and Yarmouth, and then as you know, this thing spreads very, very quickly, and any town of any major size in the Cape gets almost instantly infected as well. But why here? Why here in this locality is the infection rate so high, do you suppose?
Well, I think it's probably a combination of a couple of things. I think the new P1 variant that we're seeing, probably first in the state here added to it. I think people were getting a little lax. We do have COVID fatigue. The good weather, people are outside, they're not wearing their mask as much. The dinner parties, the sleepovers. I think it spread to the other towns, and that's why you saw 5 other Cape towns go red high-risk community Friday. And I believe they'll probably we'll stay in the high risk for a couple weeks. And I believe the other towns will also.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Eric Chenley, do you have any questions?
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. And Dan Horgan.
Actually, just have 2 quick questions, Bruce. One of the things that I've been scratching my head over is the fact that we as a state seem to be opening up under the governor's guidelines, even while we're experiencing this surge. And I guess my question to you is, should we be following the state guidelines, or should we be looking possibly to adopt our own to deal with the surge that we're experiencing now?
That's a great question. And it's the one the Board of Health has talked on for a couple weeks now. And, you know, the governor's opening up things very quick. We do need to get, you know, the businesses back, people out, but is it too quick? And do we put additional controls on? But then it comes down to enforcement, and that's difficult. You don't really have the staff for that, you know, try to go around. So I think we just, right now, what we can do is put a pause on a couple things. That's what we recommend. The extra at Bass Hole and the rec facilities, you know, things that we can control as a town versus trying to impose something on the business community or the public in general.
Okay. Speaking of enforcement, earlier you were speaking about outdoor dining, and one of the comments was a septic review. When we look at outdoor dining, is that number inclusive of indoor and outdoor? And why would it necessitate a septic review?
Yeah, you look at the septic system. So if you have a 100-seat restaurant, you have a 100-seat septic system. And then if you decide I'm going to put 50 seats outside, now you become a 150-seat restaurant with only a 100-seat septic system. So it's not continually outside. I know, you know, you got the weather, it's only small. Maybe they're not all out at once at the same time because they're outside, they're not full at a full 150. So we've been able to work with the people to get a reasonable number, what we thought they could work with. And it worked out very well last summer.
Okay. To you and the Board
Because
of Health.
you also need parking for it. You know, how's the parking?
Right.
Is there enough parking? Where's it going to be set up? Because most of them are in the buffer zones. So, you know, we tried to work with them, and it worked out very well last summer. And I think they were all comfortable with what they had.
Okay, so this isn't new.
No, it was done last summer, and it worked out very well. And I think it's going to continue because I think more people coming down want to see outdoor dining. And I think when wastewater goes through, you're going to even see more.
Right. Okay. With you and the Board of Health, just thank you for your diligence. Doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I just ask one
Go ahead.
follow-up?
Go ahead, Tracy.
Dan's brings me to the point of something I've thought about, but when you look at the community spread, the majority of the spread, and this is completely hypothetical in the way we've handled the whole epidemic, and probably Bruce and I have somewhat of a disagreement. I mean, I'm a believer in vaccine, and I'm a believer in masks and social distancing, and I think we should all do our part. However, I'm not sure there's been any reduction, I guess, in community spread based on some of these regulations, where when you look at the numbers, really the majority of the transmissions happen in households.
Correct.
Is that a fair
Agreed.
assessment?
Very fair. Most of the spread is from households, and then obviously households talking to other people. But yes, it's from households. You're not seeing that's by far the highest clusters and positivities going back to households. But then it's the households, people going to work, going out there. But it's the households. It's not coming from the schools. It's not coming from the restaurants. So that's important that we focus on that. And when we're doing our tracing and enforcement, we do look at that.
Thank you.
Yeah, great point.
Very good. I don't have any further questions. And thank you, Bruce.
Thank you.
Appreciate all your work.
Thank
you. Okay. The next item on the agenda is the change of manager hearing. And I'm going to turn this over to Mike Stone.
Mr. Chairman, as far as I know, they requested a postponement. Is that correct, Bob?
Yes, sir, that is correct. And they would like to come next week on the 6th.
That's only going to be a 5 or 10 minute matter anyway.
Yes, sir.
So we'll probably move it to next week.
Okay, very good. Okay, the next item on the agenda, moving on, is the topic of Grays Beach and Dennis Pond, the parking rules and orders. So we have a number of people who want to speak to the board on this matter? I'm going to turn this over to Bob to sort of MC this portion of the agenda.
What I would suggest, Mr. Chairman, we have 3 items that we're going to discuss. The first is the no parking on Summer Street. Second would be the no parking on Center Street. And the third issue would be the Gray's Beach issue, sticker, daily fee, et cetera, staffing. So tonight we do have Jeff Colby, Amy Powell, and Carl Von Hoen, and I do not remember if someone from the police department was going to be able to attend, who can talk about each of those issues. If that's acceptable, I'd suggest going in order of difficulty. And I see Chief Frederickson is here. On the first issue on the Summer Street parking, maybe Jeff Colby could give just a brief outline. You do have the traffic rule and order adjustment in your packet, which does talk about the length and the breadth of the no parking for Summer Street at Dennis Pond. So if it's all right, Mr. Chairman,
yes.
Jeff Colby, if you could elaborate that a little bit. I think there was a chart or a picture in the packet. So Jeff.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jeff Colby, your Public Works Director. Bob is correct. That was in your packet is a description of the no parking zones for Summer Street. We also included a diagram, so it was very clear to the board of the areas that we were talking about. The board seemed receptive when this came up a couple of weeks ago, but we wanted to make sure it's clear. Kyle, that's Center Street. We're going to do Summer Street first. But just to be clear, approximately 2/3 of this is already no parking. But in talking amongst the staff about what our recommendations are for Summer Street, there was some concern about where it was able to be parking and where it was no parking. Again, the vast majority of the areas shown on that diagram in your packet are no parking already, but we really just wanted to clarify that. The one item the board had a question for me to do some homework on was the number of permits at Dennis Pond. And last year, 37 permits were issued for Dennis Pond. So given that there are about 10 parking spaces there, there seems to be adequate parking for the number of permits of people that are allowed to use that area. So I don't believe this expanded no parking, although it's only a slight expansion of the existing no parking, would be that much of an impact, but it would help clarify the areas for no parking. So that's a brief synopsis of this particular request for Dennis Pond.
Okay. If board members have questions, Mike?
No, thank you.
Eric?
No questions. Can we handle these individually and take care of Dennis Pond right now?
Yeah, that's what I'd like to do.
I would suggest you do that, the 3 different steps. Yes, sir.
So we should handle this now and get this going over with. I just want to make sure that the board doesn't have any questions on this before we take it up.
Mr. Chairman, I have one question.
All right, let me just ask Eric. Eric, did you have anything else, Eric?
No, not on this one. No.
Okay, very good. Dan?
Jeff, the people who have permits, do they have to have a town beach sticker? And I'm assuming that the permit is something different than that. So are they charged differently, or do you have to get one in order to have the other?
No, it's a separate approval that the clerk's office issues, and it's specific to Dennis Pond. And last year, only 37 of those approvals for Dennis Pond were issued. It's not a sticker per se. What's been issued in the past is more of a letter or notice that gets posted with the vehicle.
Okay, and do you happen to know off the top of your head how much we charge for that?
I believe that's free.
I think that's correct. I think that's correct. Yes, sir.
It is free.
Right.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Very good. Tracy, do you have any comments or questions
I don't. No.
on Dennis Pond? And I don't either. I think essentially the motion for this particular item on Summer Street, and this is the no parking tollway zone signage. How should we again, I don't want to be overly legalistic, but how should that motion be
I
phrased?
make a motion that we accept the memo in our packet relating to no parking signs on Summer Street. And if you'd like me to read it into the record, I can.
Is that necessary, Bob?
I don't believe you need to, Ken, if you wish, but it is, as you said, a vote to amend the Yarmouth traffic rules and orders, as Tracy Post said, to have no parking in the specific areas on Summer Street.
Okay, do I have a second on that motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any more discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, it's a roll call vote. Dan Horgan,
Aye.
Tracy Post,
Aye.
Eric Tolley,
Aye.
Mike Stone,
Aye.
chair votes aye. Carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Okay, that's Summer Street. So let's go to the parking as it relates to Center Street.
And again, Jeff, if you could give a brief overview of what's changed or not changed on this, according to the map that you provided.
Yes, thank you. The diagram that's shown on the screen here is probably the best way to take a look at that. Previously, the board had voted to do no parking along the east side, and that was posted and is currently posted as no parking. It did not have the same documentation associated with it that's in your packet today. So for clarity purposes, we included both sides in this description. And essentially, it's the east side and the west side of Center Street north of Almshouse Road. And that's essentially what this says. So there is a Davidson Lane that's across from the parking lot. So that the west side is from Davidson Lane to Almshouse. But essentially that's what the description says. There seemed to be consistency with the board when this came up last time with regards to, addressing some of the issues related to this particular beach and parking area. And so we wrote that up and made sure all the measurements corresponded with this particular request for no parking along this zone. So happy to answer any questions.
Very good. Let me start with Mike Stone. Mike, any questions on this
No
one?
questions.
Eric?
Jeff, last year, did we post no parking on the east side all the way down to Homer's Dock?
We did, and it's still posted. There was some challenges with keeping the signs in the ground, but we attached some to utility poles and replaced other signs, and so it is currently posted as no parking.
So is the intent to keep the east side posted that far?
I'm sorry, you said Homer's Dock?
Yeah.
It only to Almshouse. It was only posted to Almshouse. I apologize.
Okay.
So it was Almshouse on the east side, all the way to the beach.
Okay. That's all I have for right now. Thank you.
Okay, Dan Horgan. Dan, any comments, questions?
Yes, please. Jeff, this first phase is just signage, correct? Are you still proposing at some point that we look at wooden barriers?
Yeah.
This proposal is just no parking signage. It's something we'll consider in the off season. As I mentioned at the last meeting, I think there's some challenges with barriers, particularly as it relates to conservation areas and some other concerns that we've heard about. So it's something we can continue to explore, but this request here is just for signage.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Tracy Post.
No, I just wanted to verify that signage was part of this and also enforcement, correct? This authorizes enforcement of that.
Correct.
It will,
The
and
signage-
I think the next phase that we'll go to item number 3, the police chief and Amy can talk about that enforcement. Yes.
I don't have any other questions other than this is just one of the first, this isn't, because this was prepared from our last meeting, this isn't the end-all solution. We still have more to discuss, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I don't have any questions.
I'd make a motion that we approve the no parking signs on Center Street as drafted in a memo in our packet. That has a no parking tow-away zone on the east side of Center Street, starting from parking area southerly 850 feet to point across from Elms House Road, and 2 along the west side of Center Street from Davidson Southerly, 1,040 feet to Elms House Road, and adopt this traffic rule and order for the town of Yarmouth as previously done April 5th, 1938, and subsequently amended hereto, be further amended by adding the following, which I just read, towaway regulations.
Very good. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote, a roll call vote. Dan Horgan,
Aye.
Tracy Post,
Aye.
Mike Stone,
Aye.
Eric Tolley,
Aye.
and chair votes aye. Carries unanimously. Okay, so the next item is the matter of Grays Beach stickers, residents, etc. So
The third, that is the third issue, and I think if it's acceptable, maybe Amy Powell could brief the board on what her plans are, similar to the last 2 weeks ago, on staffing level, and then possibly the police chief could talk about his role. Carl Von Hohn can also talk about the issue regarding the boat launch ramp. We did do some research, or Carl did the research, not we, Carl did. One concern that I had was, did we accept any state or federal money for any of the areas? And the answer is that we did accept some, I think, Carl, the money for the vehicle, the trailer parking. So we're in a similar situation as we are at Bass River Beach, that we have 2 different areas. And Carl does have an idea of how the people who have boat slips or boat slips can be identified, so that during the day they can go in, they'd have what I describe as a ticket on the rearview mirror, so it can be seen and could be transferred. He already has some of those, or knows how we would produce those. So I think with that said, maybe Amy Hall could give a brief description of, or an update of what we did 2 weeks ago.
good evening,
Hear me?
Amy. Yep, we can hear you.
I'm actually gonna pass it over to Jeff, because Parks Department is actually the one that do the booth attendance. And that falls under Jeff. So I will pass it over, but I'm happy to add anything that's needed. So.
Okay, very good. Jeff?
Certainly. The staff recommendation that was discussed a couple of weeks ago was adding 2 parking attendants at Grays Beach to help control the parking and have it be a paid as well as a sticker beach. So very similar to what is done at the 5 beaches along the South Shore. There are some challenges with that for administrative purposes, just the oversight, but it is something that we think is important to control the activity down there. Last year in 2020, we had come before the board on a couple of occasions to talk about just being a residents only or a sticker beach. And that certainly is a possibility, but town staff not wanting to come back with the same recommendation again, but we'll give you some more options, recommended this parking attendance arrangement and provided an estimate with regard to the costs for that. It's my understanding we should be able to, at least during this next year because of COVID, use some COVID funds to cover that, and then kind of reassess for following years as to what that might look like in the budget. So with that said, that might make it a little bit easier to handle the costs, at least for this next year. And we've given some information in the previous packet on what that looks like for cost, but just as a refresher of what that cost included, it was approximately $31,000 for that effort. The staffing piece of it would be just over $23,000, but there was a need for some kind of structure or shade as well, and some miscellaneous equipment and uniforms, add up to the approximately $31,000 cost. One of the questions the board had and the homework that I had to do for this particular recommendation was what revenue might be able to be brought in because of this. And what we did was look at some similar beach revenue on the south side. And Seaview Beach is probably the closest with regards to the size and number of parking spaces that this has at Grays Beach. And that particular beach brought in approximately $15,000 in revenue last year. So that's probably our best estimate based upon number of available parking spaces on what revenue could be brought in for this particular facility. Now, it might be a little more popular, so the revenue could be slightly higher, but we're just basing it upon actual numbers we have in other beaches to give an approximate estimate. So that's an overview of the recommendation and the different questions the board had last time that I can bring some more information back for you on, and happy to answer any questions you might have about this recommendation.
Okay, but before I go to the board, let me just get some clarity in terms of the time frame we're talking about. We're talking about this being the summer season, correct? And
Yeah, that would be for the summer season, the same season as the 5 beaches along the south are for us. So it would be staffing that follows that same model and the cost associated with that. So I have the weeks, I think, were broken down within
I think
that
particularly for the people that
cost
are
estimate.
listening and tuning in, Jeff, I think it's
Sure.
just to get that out there so everyone understands what we're talking about.
Yeah, that was approximately 13 weeks is what the cost of that is. And that, the numbers are high, but that's because the season is approximately 13 weeks, and it would be the same staffing associated with the other beaches as well. Weekends early in the season, and then 7 days a week in the height of the season in late June, July, and August. So that's it comes out to be the 13 weeks and the total staffing cost associated with that. So that's what that looks like for the cost.
And that would
The
be
sticker
in the daytime as well, we're talking about, correct?
Yeah, that would be just the daytime. It would not be in the evenings. So just like the other beaches, if there's somebody going down to the beach to have a picnic in the dinner or early morning sunrise viewing, it does not cover those periods. It would just be for the typical beach time.
That's great, thank you. Let me go around to the board. Eric, Tolly, do you have any questions or comments, sir?
I do. So Jeff, we're assuming that the cost of the parking lot attendance would be if it were to remain open or free. Is that correct? Not non-sticker? We would need attendance in a non-sticker scenario only?
No, we need attendance if we left it open to the public. So anyone could come in like our other beaches with our visitors and come in and pay in person. That would need an attendant to collect those fees. As I mentioned before, there's some challenges with regards to that, but they're ones that I think we can overcome. One of those challenges is we'd have to see if we could accept credit cards at this location, or if it would need to be cash only. So that's certainly a challenge we'd need to work through. But it's just new, and we have the ability to do credit card transactions at our other beaches. And so we'd like to be able to do that here if that's possible, but there's some IT components that we need to work through, make sure the equipment's available and that type of thing. But the attendance would be for if we were to open it to the public with regards to charging. The option of just being residents only and just needing a beach sticker, we wouldn't necessarily need attendance there. Somebody would need to patrol to make sure that we could ticket violators. But if it was just for resident beach passes only, we wouldn't necessarily need attendants collecting cash.
So just so I'm clear, the attendants are needed on a pay to park basis, but they would not necessarily be needed if a resident only or a general sticker were to be required. Is that a correct statement?
Correct. We would need to figure out the enforcement piece of it, but yes, we wouldn't need attendance if it was entirely a stickered beach, right? Without any pay component.
And how quickly could we have stickers, whether they be resident only or general stickers? How quickly could we have those available and for sale?
Well, if we use the beach sticker that we have now, it could be immediately. It would just be the beach sticker would also apply to this location.
Do we have resident stickers available for Dennis Pond that, are they specific to Dennis Pond, or could they be used here as well?
Dennis Pond is a little bit different of a procedure. What we would use potentially here at Grays Beach is just the general Yarmouth beach sticker that could apply here.
You know, I'm just thinking in terms of, you know, a vast majority of the emails were supportive of some kind of sticker. And I think a majority of that majority were, you know, I think it was fair to say that we're in favor of a resident only sticker. So when I'm faced with the options of spending $31,000 for attendance and shade shelters and other various equipment, you know, I quickly lean towards some sort of sticker parking to eliminate that cost. And if I had to choose, I'd probably lean in the direction of a resident only sticker. But I'll leave my comments at that and see what the rest of the board has to say. Thank you.
Just as a comment before we go to the next, Jeff, would it be easier if you had just one attendant to kind of monitor, because the sticker issue needs to be administered. So if there's nobody there, people just come, and then you have to start ticketing and towing. Would it be easier, as you do with the other beaches, like South Middle Beach? You have someone there that's a resident-only beach. You have someone there just to monitor people coming in, but you only need one. I think the two is for the collection of money and kind of logistics there. Just as a comment, it would seem to make sense. It would make people's lives a little easier. I would think the attendants and the lifeguards, et cetera.
It certainly could be. We could add an attendant similar, but given that the board seems supportive of the recommendation to have police enforcement at least on the weekends through the season, you know, the ticketing enforcement there would be different than some other locations. But certainly having an attendant might make it a little clearer, but there is a cost for that.
May I add one more thing, Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead, Eric. By the way, we're having trouble hearing everybody because of there's some disruption or distortion in the internet connection. So just everybody be patient. Okay, go ahead, Eric.
Similar to the discussion we had last year about the beaches and putting lifeguards in charge of enforcement of COVID guidelines in terms of distancing. You know, I was not in favor of putting a teenager in charge of enforcement. And similarly, I would not want to put a teenager in charge of enforcing parking lot regulations here, because tempers are going to get escalated when people come here for the first time and find out that the status of the parking has changed. And, you know, I don't think that it's fair to put a young person in that position, you know, on a daily basis or on a multi-time per day basis. So, you know, I think that, you know, my suggestion would be, if the board finds it appropriate to require stickers here, that we, you know, not have an attendant, avoid those conflicts and leave it to, you know, intermittent patrolling and ticketing and towing if it comes to that. Thank you.
Okay, Eric, thank you. Dan Horgan.
Yes,
Any
thank you, Mr.
comments?
Chairman. So the choice really seems to be between open, where we have the potential to try to cover some of our costs, or resident only. The majority of people that we heard from want a sticker of some sort. So those are the two options, it seems to me, that we have to look at. I think I'd recommend open, just to try to cover some of the costs that we're going to experience. It serves the purpose of controlling the parking down there, but it also allows us to recoup some funding for the personnel that we have to involve to police this. I am still concerned about the pavilion, but, you know, in talking with the staff, they felt that it was more important, at least for this year, to try this change first, to implement the sticker procedure and not have to differentiate between the pavilion and the parking down at the actual parking lot. So I'm kind of in agreement with that. As much as I want our pavilion to be utilized and when appropriate, rented out. This summer, we happen to have COVID anyway. It might be the appropriate time to just take a pause on that. There wasn't a lot of revenue that was coming in from it anyway. And we seem to have an uptick with the 15,000 revenue coming from parking. I must say, when I went down there this afternoon, and I was struck by the fact that, you know, we have signage down there that says that crossing to Chapin is not advised, but I think I might recommend that it be prohibited and that more signage be put out there, because that seems to be the real danger that I at least am appreciating, that, you know, having people walking over and then walking back in these currents is just inherently dangerous. And I think we should really make it very clear that the town of Yarmouth does not approve of that and prohibits that activity. And if people do so, they do so at their own warning. But other than that, I think I would suggest and recommend that we go with open sticker, where people can purchase entry for a day or for a week, however we do that at the other beaches, and try it for a year and see how it works out, and take this in a phased approach, and make sure that we talk with the neighborhood. We've got a great deal of feedback this past week on this subject, and any additional changes that we might propose with DPW or the beaches, Parks and Rec, or Amy. If we're going to recommend further changes, it might be useful to have a public hearing ahead of that, just so that we can get some input prior to these decisions having to be made at this level. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I'm still having trouble hearing people. But thank you, Dan. Next, I'm going to go to Tracy Post. Tracy, any
Thank
comments, questions,
Yes.
Tracy?
Yes, I think this is a complicated issue. So I appreciate all the recommendations been brought forward. How many spaces are there? And I'm not trying to make it overly complicated, but you know, I definitely think we need a sticker of some sort. We have a resident sticker or beach already. And there's always somebody there at the resident beach only. I think you have to have that to monitor the sticker. But you know, my thought is, and I'm not trying to make it overly complicated, but set aside a majority of them for residents only, and allow as available perhaps 10 spaces for pay. You do have a lot of weddings that go down there during the weekends for pictures. People that drive a long way to be able to see the boardwalk. I'm not sure about ever taking public funds for the boardwalk as well, and denying access to that, or getting into that. But it would be nice if we at least allowed that as a possibility. The problem with any of it is going to be the people queuing up, waiting for a spot, whether it's paid or residential. So that's something else I need to hear about, how we plan to manage that traffic when the spots do fill up. I still think regardless, we need a sandwich board on 28 on Route 6A, like we do at the other beaches, so people don't drive all the way down there to find a full spot. I'm sure that is probably a difficult thing to manage all day long. But has there been any thought put into perhaps splitting it, or setting aside some for pay and the majority for residents?
Well, I don't think we've considered that level of detail. I will say that having gone out there, there's 51 lined spaces. So a certain percentage could be set aside, but that, does present some management challenges. I think it's already going to be very difficult, which is why we were recommending 2 attendants at a time down there to manage not just the cars parking, but also the vehicles using the boat slips, as well as launching at the boat launch. And there's a kayak storage area there as well. And Carl could probably comment on some of those things, but just the logistics of all of that is very challenging. So there's already, reservations and permissions and, slip holders. They pay $210 per year to use that, as well as the kayak spots for $150 a year. So, we need to kind of manage that as well. It's a very active area, as the board is well aware. So we could certainly try to do different things there, but it's already going to be very challenging to manage as it is.
The gentleman in public made a good point about the playground, about the walking trails, and about the boardwalk. So it's multifaceted, but not everyone there is there to use the beach. So, in my mind, I'm thinking, the ones right along the park, there's probably like 10. If somebody wants to come and use the trails, what do they do? I'm just throwing it out there hypothetically. I just think that that's something that perhaps the board should consider. A majority resident with a few pay slots for people who are non-beach users, or if there's space available, I guess, because the beach isn't that big to begin with. So when that parking lot's full, it's overly crowded anyway. So it would be good to utilize the spaces for other uses like the trails or the boardwalk. But those are my thoughts, and I would really love to hear. I definitely personally think we need to put somebody there. And, I agree with Dan when you say that, this perhaps isn't going to be our final step. I feel like we're piecemealing it. We've been talking about this for a long time, but we really need a long-term plan. And so I think this year we can learn from some of our mistakes. But, just because we do it this time doesn't mean it's final. So it's going to be a little bit of trial and error. We're going to do the best we can to try to mitigate the situation that's going on down there, but it may not be the end solution.
Okay, Tracy, thank you. Mike Stone.
Um,
You have any?
It seems to me that whatever decision that we make with respect to whether it's going to be a sticker only beach, or whether it's going to be a combination of stickers and people paying by the day or the week, the first year there's going to have to be a major communication to people who have been accustomed to using the beach that all these changes are in effect. And I don't necessarily see the plan in year 2 being the same as year 1. Year 1, we may have to use those COVID funds to, you're going to get a lot of resistance by people as well. I think one of the big problems here with this beach is, unfortunately, the fact that it's been advertised as a free beach. Every now and then you see articles in the newspaper in various towns where the Cape Cod Times will feature a free beach somewhere. And once that, with all the money that people pay for rentals down here, with the price of parking at, daily parking rates or weekly parking rates at beaches, when they hear the word free beach, they're going to gravitate like bees to honey. And that's how beaches get overloaded, like this area seems to have been. To Eric's point, it seems that if you run this like you do the other paid beaches, you're going to be operating at least based on these preliminary figures as at a deficit every year. If you got income of 15,000 and you got expenses of somewhere upwards of 31,000 or more, and it's going to probably be more because minimum wage increases, uniform increases, equipment increases as we go along. You're not really going to make money. You're going to lose money on that basis. However, there are other things to think about. As Tracy's indicated, that beach is a big attraction for people, not just for the beach, but particularly for the boardwalk. It's a big tourist attraction. If you go with a resident-only approach, a resident sticker approach, you may have that impact on tourism. You may have people who have been accustomed to renting out their properties. Given that there's an accessible beach to their tenants who no longer have a beach on the north side, I think it'll affect them as well. I don't think necessarily those commercial or tourist factors are dispositive of this case. I don't mean to suggest that, but I think they are something that gets weighed into the equation ultimately. I think, to Tracy's point, you're going to have to have somebody monitor. If you go with a sticker approach to the beaches, you're going to have somebody there to determine, who's parking there, because people will still come. They definitely will. If there's nobody there to say you can't park there, they will, whether they have a sticker or they don't have a sticker. And so you're going to get into a lot of problems there. And as Eric said, I don't think you should relegate that task to young kids, because I think at least in the first few years, you're going to get some pushback from some people, and you need probably more of an adult presence there. But the emails that people sent do give a very considered as a whole, a comprehensive view of all of the problems that are occurring up there. Most of the emails, I think with the exception of one, have suggested as an answer that it not be a free beach anymore, that it be that it be at least a paid beach. And others say it should be a resident-only beach. So I think we've hit all of the pieces that come into play with respect to making a decision like this. The one that concerns me is the economy of having it modeled after Seaview Beach and costing us roughly $16,000 or more a year, over and above the amount of fees that we're gonna take in, if I understand the projections correctly. So those are my comments at this point, Mr. Chairman.
Would you like maybe Jeff?
Okay, I appreciate that, Mike. I'm sorry. Is that you,
I
Bob?
wondered if either Jeff or Amy wanted to comment on that. And I think we should also ask the police chief to give his ideas on the enforcement, even though there would be an officer, according to the last review 2 weeks ago. But so.
Can I just ask a question before he responds about that? Does the figure that you gave us, the 31,000 annually, include the detail costs, Jeff? So it's over and above.
It does not, no.
So we're making 15 and potentially spending way more than that.
Potential as much as 40.
Okay.
So.
All right, we're looking at Chief Frederickson. Did you want to speak, or Amy?
Good evening, everybody. It's quite a conversation. We've heard this several times over the past few years. There's so many ways to go with it. We don't have to repeat everything. But from our perspective, as far as enforcing regulations, we can do that. We can. I think that first and foremost, we need to start out quickly on it early in the season if we're going to do enforcement. Maybe we can lighten it up later in the year. And it's kind of interesting in the climate of enforcement right now, where a lot of places are trying to get police out of doing certain things like this. But on the other hand, we may be the best alternative to enforce what is going on. And whether it's paid or resident stickers or just open parking, that's going to dictate exactly how we approach this. And Selectman Tully, I can't agree with you more, having a 18, 19-year-old kid there trying to manage this parking is going to be challenging at best, and it would have to be enhanced with some of our presence down there. So we are ready, willing, and able to do whatever needs to be done as far as the enforcement, and also do it in such a way as we're not crushing people doing this. And we like start with education first, then start with ticketing, and then if we have to start towing people, we will. Just the fact that you put you approve the additional signage is going to make life a lot easier as far as the parking outside the area there. So, we're open to doing whatever need be, and when we're there, it's effective. But putting our resources there all the time is not practical. But on the weekends, as we put our plans out, we can do that and tailor it accordingly as we move forward. I did have a question, which I'm not certain it was addressed. You talked about making it a resident-only beach. I may be mistaken. You want to make sure that definition is correct. Is it a separate sticker for just people who live in Yarmouth? Or is it a sticker, just a Yarmouth beach sticker that other people can purchase, or a seasonal pass? I don't have an answer to that, but I think you might need to clarify that if you're going to do something.
Just as a comment, I think the intent was to use the current beach sticker. So kind of defined as resident, that's true, but it's a property owner also. I think Pat Armstrong had just emailed me. She had a comment on the gate attendant.
Did she have a question or did she have an answer?
Pat Armstrong, did you had
Pat,
sent
you
something?
want to say something?
Oh, yeah.
Good evening. There are a number of booth attendants, I think 13, that are hired annually by the DPW, and they are not teenagers. The majority of our booth attendants are retirees in their 60s, have gone through actually Disney quality control management, and so we've done some work with them because of some of the issues at the beaches. And Mr. Carlson, the park superintendent, and his foreman would not put a teenager in this situation, understanding the high level of concern there would be. I think he would put his most senior and well-trained people in this area. So your concern that a 19-year-old would have to deal with this is really already been considered by the staff and would not go and be in place this summer, especially considering the changing of rules and the heightened anxiety that might cause.
Thank you,
I think
Pat.
Amy needs to say something too, if that's okay, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Amy.
Yeah, I would just like to add too, is just so everyone's aware of our time frame right now. I mean, it's almost April 1st, so the season starts in about 7 weeks. So we have 7 weeks to educate the public, whatever changes that you guys decide tonight. And if it is to go to beach paid, whatever it is, that means they will have to hire more booth attendants. IT will have to come down, as Jeff spoke about the payments. If it is paid, there's no Wi-Fi down there, so it would have to be cash only. And I think the biggest issue that we've had a lot of times is just getting that information out to the public. And so just being aware that right now we're down to about 6 to 7 weeks to make this decision and get that out to the public, and then implement this plan. So I think that's really an important factor that we need to consider tonight as well.
Thank you. So you're recommending we don't delay it for another month, right?
Yeah.
Don't bother.
Okay. Are there any other board members that have any other comments or questions?
I would
Tracy?
just like a response to the traffic management. If we have a booth attendant, where that would be placed and how you'd manage stuff. I mean, my fear is just like what happens in Smugglers, is you're going to have them queuing up, waiting for an open spot and really impeding traffic. So I just would like to hear about how we're going to send them on their way.
Yeah, I've reviewed this with the park staff, and although we don't have any gate attendants hired at this point, but at least the supervisors of those gate attendants. And we feel that at the pavilion parking where the perpendicular parking to the road starts, there's also a trail there, and there's sufficient room to turn around if the booth gate attendant was located there. That would also give them eyes on to spots and would help with communication and understanding what's available. I have seen some of the recommendations to have the booth, much further down the road, but, being that far removed from the actual location would be very difficult. So there is a space that we feel is adequate to turn around right there, kind of at a trailhead location that is also right at the beginning of the parking, if you will. Also, with the board's action tonight of no parking along both sides of the road, certainly maneuvering is going to be much easier. We're not expecting cars to be blocking the road because they'll be on both sides. It's just, you're right, there may be some queuing up, but the turning around and exiting should be much easier without parking on both sides of the road.
Good. Did that help? You said, Tracy?
Yeah, I'm not, I still think that there's, preventing that traffic disturbance to the neighborhood completely with some type of signage on 6A would be the most preferable way. If there's a way to manage that. I know it changes all the time. We don't have a digital one out there where you can say full or open. But it is even without it being, and Chief Frederickson knows this, he's met with the neighbors several times. We've been talking about the traffic in that area for quite some time. So to the extent that we're able to stop people from going down there, so pedestrians or what have you, I suspect there'll be more of that with the gate. So they're safe as well. So I think we have to consider the pedestrian traffic in this entire plan. So turning around would be great, but if somebody's walking, I'm concerned about safety.
I understand. Any other board members have questions or things that they think needs to be clarified? Okay, hearing none. Bob, is there any other angle to this that you think we need to consider, or can we just start looking at options and votes?
I would think that the only thing that I can think of is we'll implement, if you go forward with any type of restrictions, we'll go forward with Culver and Hone to have the some type of an identifier for the boaters. Like that's critical. They have a separate area, and that would be, and the gate attendant would be able to direct people to that. So
I always thought that the gravel place in front of where the kayaks are were specifically for the boat parking. Is that a question?
I think that's great. If it's okay, Carl, can you answer that, please?
Are you there, Carl?
I am here.
Great.
Yes, absolutely. We do have a land management agreement with the Office for Fishing and Boating Access, and we are in a queue for some funding to improve that boat ramp and that small little area associated with the boat ramp. And just like with Wilbur Park and Bass River Beach, we do need to maintain vehicle and trailer parking for the boat ramp itself. The area that is currently there, as Tracy Post brought up, from the kayak rack to the paved parking lot is routinely a vehicle and trailer parking area. Have to remember, we don't have boats of any size truly launching from there. They're usually relatively small boats that are launching, but we do need to maintain that. With that said, parking can be charged to park there. We would not be able to prohibit people from going down, launching a boat and leaving with their vehicle and trailer like Bass River Beach. But we do charge for parking of vehicles and trailers at Bass River Beach. We would need to get authorization from the Office of Fishing and Boating to make sure the fee falls in line with what their standards are, which I would imagine would be the same as Bass River Beach, since we did just increase those fees last year, I believe. So we do need to take that into consideration. We also have 14 boat slips down there and 24 kayak racks that are utilized. So we do need to be considerate to those that do pay some money to utilize the area and store their boats there. One of the thoughts was just doing a mirror hanger that they would be able to put on their mirror as they come down. That would give them access to the parking area. I would imagine, since most of those that utilize those rack storage and slips are all from the local Yarmouth Port area for the most part, would likely have beach stickers. But we would need to give that option to them if they don't have a beach sticker to still be able to utilize what they've paid for. And that, like I said, that would be easiest to do a color-coded mirror hanger that we could issue to each one of the rack holders and the marina slip holders.
Can I ask?
Go right ahead, Tracy.
Okay, so you said there's 24 rack. And what do the kayak pay? What do they pay for that?
$150
Per year.
per year.
Okay. So now out of the 51 spaces, are the boat and trailer parking counted as part of that, Jeff?
No.
Okay.
No,
so
the 51 that I mentioned before in the paved area, they're line spaces.
But so now we're saying there's 24 and 14 out of 51 that will have access to the 51. That's more than half of what we have left.
I think you have a separate area, right, Carl?
Well,
How many spaces?
we do have a limited area down there to try to work within. You are correct, Tracy. They would have to somehow be fit into those 51 parking places. Got to remember, all slips and all of the kayaks aren't going out at one time. But
I'd say on a July weekend, you got a pretty good chance that those boaters and kayaks are going to be down there.
Absolutely, especially at high tide when they both would want to be able to, have enough water to access the area.
Is there a way, Jeff, to reconfigure? I know that was one of our questions the last time, to get more spaces.
I looked at that briefly and it wouldn't gain us too much more spaces. I mean, right now, the spaces 10 by 20 is required by our bylaw. And so that's some of the challenges we're running into with regarding to lining other spaces, because they have to be all 10 by 20 in size. And for circulation purposes, I measured the distance between the spaces, at least in the paved area, and it's really at the minimum for the two-way circulation. So there's not a lot of additional spaces that can be gained without expanding the parking and paving some more, or taking up some of the green space. And those, of course, are much larger issues with regard to permitting and design and the cost of construction, of course. So given the current configuration we have, there's not a lot to be gained by relining or changing things because of some of the different bylaw and constraints we have for sizes and maneuvering.
And how many there's one lifeguard, Amy, on duty, or is there two there?
Actually 3 during the week and 4 on the weekends, just because of the sheer number of people that have been there in the last year or two.
So if you talk about parking between staff, if we put 2 people at the gate as well, or even 1 person at the gate, plus the lifeguards, and then the people that already have, paid rights to a spot, we really don't have much left over. I don't know how you're going to manage that. There's going to be very few spaces. How many spaces do we know are in front of the pavilion?
I know Jeff can speak to it, but that's actually not legal space, but I'll let Jeff speak to that. So
Yeah, they're not currently lined, and that's what I was referring to earlier about they don't meet our bylaw of being able to be 20 feet deep. So we're looking at different alternatives there. We have some temporary markings, and I think for the most part, people have parked in that space pretty well, even though it's somewhat informal. So we're reviewing that. It's no more than 14 spaces, although it's not lined.
So my personal thought would be that we would leave those for potentially paid parking and make the rest residential only. That would probably be where I would start, but thank you.
Any other board members? Okay, so are we ready to have a proposed motion on the floor?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, Tracy, go ahead.
I'll make a motion that we enact Gray's Beach, a sticker required beach with an attendant for this upcoming year at a minimum, setting aside or being able to acknowledge in some manner those that are slip holders and kayak rack folks, and also setting aside what spaces we have that we can make available in front of the pavilion specifically, so that way we can identify them as paid parking. I hope it's not overly complicated, but I think that having that ability for a few cars is at a minimum something that we should at least try to do. Like I said, there's people that go there that don't go to the beach, that utilize the boardwalk, and I think we should be sensitive of that. So at least try to offer them something.
Mr. Chairman, I'd second that just for point of discussion.
Okay. So we have a motion and we have a second. Let's have some discussion on that. Mike, do you want to speak?
Sure. I think that's too indefinite and perhaps a bit too restrictive. I would favor either, I would favor for this year, again, I'm only speaking for this season, to do it after the Seaview Beach model, to have it available for resident stickers, people that have resident stickers, and also for private pay. I mean, I didn't go to the beach last year primarily because of COVID, but in the prior years that I've gone, even with a resident sticker, there's been plenty of times where I couldn't get into a beach. So there's obviously some internal allocation between stickers and private pay customers that's going on. There has to be. And staff can work that out. I think you have to have some flexibility, especially in the first year. Just run it as you do the other beaches, model it after the Seaview model, see what, we'll have some statistics, we'll have some breakdown and revenue, expenses, and get the feedback from the neighborhood that may solve a lot of the problems that they're having now. And based on that feedback, we can decide next year whether it's appropriate to be more restrictive than that. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. So you would propose that. Eric, would you have some thoughts on the, we still, remember now we have a motion on the table. Eric?
My thoughts, no disrespect to Tracy, but as soon as somebody says, I don't want to overcomplicate things, the first thing they do is overcomplicate things.
I'm from the government. I'm here to help.
Exactly. You know, I think that the best thing to do is to cut the cord, do something, do the simplest approach possible, not have multiple options, and just make it a resident beach. So, that doesn't speak favorably on the motion that's on the floor, but
I understand.
Those are my thoughts.
I understand. Anybody else? Dan?
Can I just ask Carla? I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Tracy. You have a
I just
question?
was gonna ask Carl what the slip holders pay. Just average. I think that that's one of the problems. One of the big frustrations is that people come down there for their boats. They can't even park. So if we're not gonna set anything aside for them and just, it's first, I guess it'd be first come, first served. They have the same frustrations that they have now.
Carl,
And
you want to?
potentially they still could under my proposal. I mean, it's,
We have to.
Sure. Currently, it's first come, first serve. You know, they are very in tune to what the tide is, so they know when they want to get down there, and they make their accommodations and trips there. But as it is, especially over the last year or two, it's gotten so busy there, they have to pick and choose when they go down to utilize their boats and kayaks. So it probably won't be much different than it is currently.
what's the average slip holder pay there
It's only it's $210.
for the slip for the whole year?
Correct. And we have taken consideration, there's only about 4 hours in a tide
I know.
that it's at all usable. You know, it's one of those things where I know that in the past, the board has brought up and previous administration has brought up, you know, for that fee, would it be better off not even having it down there? But we have so many people on wait lists, and it's a very hot commodity to get a slip down there. And the boats are only 18 feet or smaller.
Mhm. Yeah, that's the only difference, I think, from Seaview, Mike, is that, you know, you don't have people that have some type of stake in, you know, if they can't get in there, they can just go somewhere else, you know? Where you got your car piled up with stuff to go out in the boat, and, you know, how do you manage, you know, I guess they could still pull in and drop it off and go find somewhere else to put the car.
Anything else, Tracy?
Well, I'm just thinking out loud here,
I
sorry.
know, I understand. Any more discussion on the motion that's on the floor right now? We have a
Mr.
motion, we
Chairman?
have a second. Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, I seconded it because I just wanted to have the conversation. I really appreciate Tracy's consideration of all of the different users. I think it's laudable. It gets very difficult in terms of trying to manage it all, though. I tend to agree with Selectman Stone that doing resident stickers in private allows us to control the parking lot, but it also allows us to recoup some of the money that we're spending. Not all of it. And I do expect that some of these costs will go down over time. Once people get used to the idea that there's limited parking and it's enforced, I don't think we'll need the police presence as strongly as we do at the beginning. Some of the costs are fixed costs that are one-time only. But you know, I think we're looking at a deficit type of scenario here in any event. But I think that one at least gives all population bases the opportunity to use the beach. You know, if you're not a resident, if you don't own land here, it still gives you the opportunity possibly to get there early enough of getting a spot and, you know, being able to use the boardwalk, use the park, use the picnic tables and whatnot. So I think that, you know, that's a tourist friendly type of approach. It allows everybody the opportunity, and it's, as Carl said, first come, first serve. And that's kind of how I'm seeing it at this point.
All right, any more discussion on the motion that's on the floor?
I'll let you know, obviously the board doesn't agree. They want to be simple. I don't think simple's always the answer, but if that's what they want, I'll remove my motion. I mean, I support doing something, so I'm not that set in my ways, but
I understand.
I think we're also going to have a lot of continued frustration with the residents under this plan. So,
So you're withdrawing your motion?
yes.
Oh, wait, do we have a withdrawal on the second?
I will, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Also with the idea that I do think that this is a developing plan and that we are going to learn from this year and we will continue to
I understand.
adjust.
In the interest of time, I'd like to see if we have another motion that would like to be presented for the board.
Make a motion, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Mr. Stone.
I'll move that the beach become a pay beach with due credit given to people who have stickers. They'll be able to access the beach with the sticker. And anyone that doesn't have the sticker will have to pay the fees as, and I don't know when we would set what those fees are. Whether they be the same as, I would assume they'd be the same as the Southside
Same.
beaches. So we could probably add that to the motion as well.
Same.
For this season only, and then we'll take a look at the experience that we have this summer and decide what we're going to do going forward. We may have to tailor this approach based on what we see, the results that we see this year.
Second.
That would be my motion.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the motion?
I would just like to be clear exactly what the motion is. Mike, could you repeat it? So it's going to be pay
The
for
beach-
parking and stickers?
The beach, yeah, it would be a combination of people who don't have stickers would pay the same rates as we charge at the Southside beaches. And people who have beach stickers will be able to access the beach with the same sticker.
And there will be no preference given to stickers. It will be first come, first serve, whether it be sticker or pay, and until the parking lot is full. Is that correct?
I don't know how that works internally on the Southside beaches. I really don't know if there's an internal allocation between, I don't know if Jeff or Pat can answer that question, or whether it is strictly first come, first serve. I really don't know the answer to that question, Eric.
Yep, first come, first serve is the way it's handled at the other beaches.
Okay, so be consistent with that. So I would add to my motion, yes, Eric, first come, first serve.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I was clear on that. Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion and we have a second. That was you, Dan Horgan, right?
Correct.
Okay. Any more?
Dan, will you
Go ahead.
second that with the addition I made based on Eric's suggestion?
That's how I understood it. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Bob Lawton?
And to just other clarification, so this would mean that we would have, at least for this year, 2 attendants there, and the enforcement that was outlined with the police department, and we'll obviously put the booth themselves, the place where the people can stand.
Correct.
Okay, just want to make sure. Thank you.
May I also add, I do agree strongly that there should be some sort of sandwich board at, there's three access points. There's Old Church Street, there's Center Street, and if you want to stretch it a little, there's Winter Street. But I think that there should be sandwich boards notifying people that the parking lot is full, at least at Old Church Street and the intersection of 6A and Center Street.
And I will add that condition as well.
And actually, I think we can pay for some of that through, believe it or not, the CARES Act or COVID funds, because we're doing this because of the overcrowding. And we want to be safe. So.
Bob, I see Carl Von Honen's got his hand raised. Carl, did you want to address this particular motion?
Just looking for clarification for the slip holders and the kayak rack, that we will produce a designation mirror tag or whatever it might be for their use, or will it still be paid or sticker for them as well?
I would assume that my intent would be that they get, as you said, some kind of mirror hanger that gives them access at no additional cost because of the fees that they previously paid.
Very good. I was just looking for clarification. Thank you.
When you say give them access, what does that mean? It's still first come, first serve, correct?
Right.
Correct, but they don't have to pay.
Right. It still would be first come, first serve, Tracy.
Because they already paid. Okay.
All right. Any more discussion on the motion that's on the floor? Yes, Mr. Horgan.
I certainly was not of the impression that that was part of the original motion.
All right. So are you going to withdraw
I'm
your
not gonna
second?
withdraw it. We're in discussion. I don't see the necessity of guaranteeing parking for people who purchase kayak slips. I don't know what the money differential is. Maybe Jeff or Carl can answer this, but how much do we charge for a slip for a kayak? And, wouldn't we still expect somebody to buy a beach sticker to have availability to be at the beach in the first place?
Carl Van Hoen, just the clarification I was looking was for those that have paid $210 or $150 for rack space, will still be able to park there with some means of consideration to park there versus having to pay a daily fee to park there. So they may already have a beach sticker, which they're fine, but if they happen not to have a beach sticker and they're only utilizing that area for their kayak or for their slip, they already pay a fee. And that's up to the board whether they would still be required to have a beach sticker, or we would produce a mirror hanger for those individuals, those few individuals that have paid for access down there. But it's still a first come, first serve.
May I ask if that fee is higher than the typical beach sticker price?
Yes.
All right, okay.
It's a separate area too. It's not,
Right.
they're on
So
their own and
they're actually paying more. They're paying a premium to be able to bring a boat down there.
What's to prevent somebody from giving their sticker, their hanging thing to their friends? I mean, it's just nothing.
We could always utilize our, and I'll have to double check if we have enough of the mooring dinghy permits to be able to hand out to those folks. And that way those stickers can be affixed to the automobile. Very similar.
Or you could do license plates, numbers on it and match it up that way.
Yeah.
Correct. I think we can work through this to identify those vehicles.
Does that answer your questions, Dan?
It does, and I'm fine
Okay.
going forward.
Do any other members of the board have questions regarding the motion or comments?
Are we going to talk about the signage, the beefed up signage that we need about crossing? We can do that in a separate thing. It's not related to parking, but.
Okay, yeah, I'm happy to talk about that.
I'm hoping that the fact that there's a fee charge
Yes.
will deter those people from coming to that crossing area. I don't know why they would pay the fee and then cross, but maybe they would.
Right.
But
Right.
I think it would certainly have a tendency to minimize that.
Okay, any more discussion, any more commentary? I'm gonna do a roll call vote unless there's some concern here. Okay, I'm gonna Dan Horgan,
Aye.
Mike Stone,
Aye.
Tracy Post,
Aye.
Eric Tolley.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. And just a shout out to all the Yarmouth Port residents that took the time to write us an email or send us a memo. A special shout out to Tom and Judy Bartha. That's going to be one of the most widely read memos on this topic in the town of Yarmouth and its history. I've at least have received 10 copies of this from other residents of the town who've urged me to look at it, review it, and consider it. So thanks to everybody that's
If I
weighed
might,
in.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
A big thank you to the staff as well. That was a lot of work that they put out to try to give us some possibilities to try to control this.
Yep,
Thank
duly
you for
noted.
all of them.
Very good. Okay, this concludes Dennis Pond and Grays Beach. Tracy, did you want to make a footnote comment here about some of the signage, or are you?
Yeah, I'm not sure about the legalities. I think that that's something that we need to be careful of. I don't know if we can prohibit, but.
Well, I think the message coming away from this is that we're very concerned, and we've heard recommendations clearly for maybe stronger language on the signage. I think that the town department heads can certainly take that away and at least feel that if more needs to be done, they can come back to the board and get some real strong support for that. I think we're all aware now that that's a very serious problem. And there's a fair amount of lack of compliance. So,
Yeah.
So I think that your point's well taken, Tracy, and I think it's been made loud and clear. What I'd like to go next is go to board and committee actions and turn this portion of the agenda over to Mr. Horgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have one recommendation tonight. Making a recommendation to appoint Ms. Megan Homer as an alternate member to the Board of Appeals. The appointment's for a one-year term to run through January 2022.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Roll call vote. Dan Horgan.
Aye.
Tracy Post.
Aye.
Mike Stone.
Aye.
Eric Tolley.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. It carries. So that's it. So the next item on the agenda is upcoming agenda review. And I'm going to go back to the interim town administrator, Mr. Lawton, and ask if there's anything in here you'd like to point out for us, Bob, or go over with us.
So on the 6th, we're going to add the Seafood Sam change of manager.
Okay.
The other items will be on the Historic Commission, short period of time, the body cameras, the police are going to make a presentation, and then Mary Maslowski will be coming in to talk about and get a vote on the ballot questions. On the 13th, the chairman and I had a discussion about asking the Cape Cod Commission to maybe postpone because of all the budgeting and all the other items. Is that acceptable? They had asked to be on. We did not request it of them. So because you're having that night, you are doing one entertainment license, but the DY school budget is, they're going to come in and do their presentation. So, okay to see if I can postpone that. Okay.
From my point of view, I just assumed that there's nothing urgent that they're going to present to the board. I have no idea why they're coming
Nothing more.
town meeting
They
time.
said it's their annual. We'll see if we can get that. I think it would be June because you only have really 2 meetings, or maybe 3 in May.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would recommend after town meeting at a more convenient time myself. Unless there's a board member that feels strongly that we need to have them here, maybe there's something that we need to hear from them to speak to. I mean, there are other topics that they're working on, but unless there's some compelling reason, my preference is just to put them on.
Okay. Done. The 20th, the only thing I think I'm going to move Gray's Beach to the 27th. And the reason is because Jeff and Tracy won't be here on the 20th. So I propose to do that. We do have one common victular license that came in today. We'll probably do that. I'm hopeful to have a drive-in site update also on that. And then DHY on the 27th. And then, believe it or not, we're into May. So, and that, I think May 4th would be the required hearings under the charter for the capital budget and the finance committee. And that'll be a lot of time that evening.
Very good. Any board members have any agenda items they'd like to see moved or changed? Okay. Hearing none, let's move on to the next. Individual items. I'm going to start with Eric Tolley. Eric, do you have any individual items tonight?
I do not. Thank you.
Tracy Post. Tracy, do you have any individual items tonight?
The only thing is an update on the school building is moving forward. They have selected a general contractor, and they had 2 meetings last week to deal with that. And everybody else has been giving my school updates, and they're still working on the budget. So been attending the meetings. I just haven't had to say too much. So thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. Dan Horgan, any individual items?
No, thank you.
How about Mike? Mike Stone, any individual
Pass,
items?
Mr.
Mike?
Chairman.
Okay, thank you. The next item on the agenda is town administrator items, number 1 being consent agenda.
There's only one item on the consent agenda, and that's the APWA proclamation for National Public Works Week, if that's acceptable.
So I think it is. We're acknowledging, which week is it, Bob?
It's May 16th through the 22nd.
So that week will be National Public Works Week, and we're urging all citizens to join in celebrating the importance of public works, right?
Yes, sir.
Sounds good.
So move the consent agenda.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, roll call vote. Dan Horgan. Tracy Post.
Aye.
Mike Stone.
Aye.
Eric Tolley.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Consent agenda has been passed. Town administrator updates.
The only address we are getting ready and we're finishing up the annual town meeting warrant. As I said, Mary Mosowski will be doing the next week, the ballot questions. And we also are starting, it's late, but we're starting to send the town report material to our printer. So I think that's positive. And I think, and the last thing I had was just to say thank you, because this is my last meeting with you as your interim town administrator. Next week. And next week I'll be the interim assistant town administrator. But I do want to thank the board for giving me the opportunity to serve again for 3 months. 3 months has gone by very quickly. I'm really surprised that I'm at the end, but so thank you very much for this.
Well, thank you, Bob, for being here to serve the community and to do it once again, do an outstanding job in helping run the town.
Well, hopefully we've smoothed the way for Bob Rittenauer, so we won't have, I mean, the things you did tonight and even last week are major issues that the board took up. And I think that's good. Bob Rittenauer coming in wouldn't necessarily have the background, et cetera. So I think a lot of progress has been made in the 3 months.
Yes.
If he's a wise man, he'll sit back and delegate to his assistant.
Yeah, but that's a short-term deal. You know, it's not...
Yeah, we only get that for so long. Yes, Eric.
Pardon me? Wait. Anyway.
Can I just
that was
ask a
it.
question?
Go ahead, Tracy.
In the informational documentation given to
Yes,
us.
go right ahead.
Resource annual yearly plan is there. Are we going to discuss that? Send a memo at all? Not tonight, but I just mean there's.
Which memo are you referring to, Tracy?
Talking about there's memos as for information in the packet from the Conservation Commission and the I believe it's the Board of Health.
Oh, this is on Eversource.
Correct.
Would you like to have that as an agenda item, perhaps to bring that up?
In the past, we've supported some of the recommendations that they've made about the yearly operational plan. And, you know, even if we just look at one of the ones from the years past, we've endorsed that.
So we can certainly put that on the agenda as a letter pretty much outlining our previous concerns regarding Eversource. If you'd like to do that, let's add that to the agenda for our next meeting if we can, Bob.
I think that's a good
And
idea.
reinforcing the points that have been made by the other town boards. Is that acceptable, Tracy?
Yes, that would be great.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, any other town administrator related items that we should go over?
Not
No.
for me, no, sir.
Okay, well, I'm happy to entertain a motion to adjourn from anyone.
So moved.
Wow, that was very tentative.
Well, I was just going to ask if anybody actually read this whole Comcast. If
I'll second it before she starts in with something.
I was going
No, we're roll call aye.
Okay. Save that for the next meeting, Tracy, okay?
I just want to know if someone can give me the cliff notes.
All right, well, Bob can, but you guys can talk about it over the phone. All right?
Sure.
No, Tracy, if you want to put it on the agenda, let's just do it.
No, I don't want to put it, I just,
Okay,
it's a lot. I don't.
all right. I've got a motion to adjourn. Did I get a second on that?
Yes, second.
Okay. Any more discussion on that motion? Hearing none. All those in favor, roll call vote. Eric Tolley,
Aye.
Mike Stone,
Mike Stone says, thank you very much, Bob Lawton, and votes aye.
Yes, thank you, Bob.
Dan Horgan,
Aye.
Tracy Post.
Aye, and thanks to the rock star.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rockstar.
Thank you
All
for
right,
the
folks.
text, Tracy.
Thanks, everybody, for watching. Thanks for all the help, JP and Kyle and the rest of the gang. And thank you, folks in Yarmouth, for all your involvement in tonight's meeting. Thank you and good night.
Stay healthy.